Johnson & Johnson's one-dose vaccine will not be part of Australia's vaccine rollout, at least for now, after the federal government confirmed it would not purchase any doses from the company. The news comes despite the fact the federal government has been considering how to increase vaccine orders in response to changing advice around the AstraZeneca vaccine. For more, I'm joined by Professor Peter Collignon, who's an infectious diseases physician at the Australian National University. Dr. Collignon, thank you so much for your time. We'll come to the Johnson & Johnson order or non-order in a moment, but there's now a second case of a rare blood clot in a person who received an AstraZeneca vaccine in Australia. That's over in WA. Have we now confirmed a link between the vaccine and rare blood clots?
Well, I don't know it's confirmed, but the data from Europe, particularly Germany and Scandinavia, suggests there is an association with this very unusual type of clotting, where you have what we call very low platelets due to some immune reaction to the platelets, and then you get perversely clotting as well. And there it was occurring maybe 1 in 100,000, 1 in 200,000 people, but not evenly spread. It was more common in Germany, for instance, than in England, which had given most of the vaccine. And here I think we've now given 700,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, and it would appear we've had 2 cases. So about 1 in 300,000, 400,000 people that get it, which is a concern, but we need to keep it in perspective. I mean, if you're over the age of 80 and you get COVID, you've got a 1 in 10 chance of dying. Even over the age of 70, it's probably 1 in 100 or more. So every vaccine, every drug we give has some side effects, some very serious, and some actually can cause death. But you've still got to take every vaccine, every drug you give, and look at the benefits versus the downsides. And clearly for all the at-risk groups, above the age of 50 or anybody over the age of 70, you would be silly not to take the vaccines that are available. And in Australia, because of the local production, we've got supposedly 1 million doses a week being produced in Melbourne by CSL. That is the vaccine you should take because it's very effective. It basically seems to stop people from dying and getting seriously ill 90%, even some say 100% of the time. It's the vaccine we'll have available. It's the only vaccine we'll have available in large numbers for some time to come because there's a global shortage. So please get vaccinated if you're in those higher risk groups, the 1A, 1B group, because we need millions of people vaccinated before winter starts.
Yeah, is that the big concern, that all of this negative messaging around the AstraZeneca vaccine feeds into already existing vaccine hesitancy?
Well, I think it does. I mean, in Asia, apparently the uptake of the vaccine has gone down and, you hear what people are saying. But we need to keep this in proportion or perspective. Yes, we're very lucky in Australia and we don't have community spread and hopefully we won't have it. But it is still likely we'll have more leaks from quarantine hotels while we have people returning with virus. And I don't think we'll get into the same situation we were last winter with Melbourne. But if we do, if we have the people over the age of 70 vaccinated, you decrease the death rate by 90% or more. So instead of 800 deaths, we'd only have 60 or 80 deaths. Now, we don't want that either. But by not getting vaccinated, if you're in a high-risk group, and that's really anybody over the age, particularly over the age of 70 and over the age of 50, you need to get vaccinated. I would not hesitate to take whatever vaccine you get because the risk from the disease, if it gets around and spreads, will be 100 times higher or more than any risk from the vaccine.
Australia won't order the Johnson & Johnson single-dose COVID-19 vaccine because the technology is similar to that in the AstraZeneca. And even though the Johnson & Johnson has been approved for emergency use in the US, have there been reports of rare blood clots with that shot in America?
Well, my understanding is they've rolled out about 6 million doses and there's been 4 reported associations with that vaccine as well. And now, again, is it really or not? We don't know. But the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has got a big advantage. You can take a single dose and you don't need 2 doses, and it can be stored at 4 degrees normal refrigeration temperature. But equally, it may not be quite as effective as the AstraZeneca vaccine with 2 doses, and it is a similar technology. It's based on what we call an adenovirus. So you might expect similar complications. So currently in Australia, we have got the Pfizer vaccine, which is this messenger RNA one. We've got another vaccine that looks promising called Novavax, which is presenting the body with a protein, so different technology, plus we got AstraZeneca. The University of Queensland one was one that was on the cards, 4 or 5 months ago, which was more a standard protein vaccine, but that fell over because of HIV antibodies, because of the way it was structured. So we've got available and should have available within, many months, large numbers of different vaccines. The main one would be AstraZeneca, which is very effective and overall a very good safety profile, if you take into account the seriousness of disease. For those that under the age of 50 and in high risk groups, we've got other alternatives at the moment. The Pfizer vaccine, which has allergic side effects as an issue, I might say as well, but they're all, we need to be aware of those and treat those. And we've got another vaccine that should be available, because I think we've ordered 50 million doses when it's approved and the studies are finally available, from the US, called Novavax. So we will have a lot of possibilities, particularly for those under the age of 50, where the risk of disease is much less. If you're a 30-year-old and get COVID, maybe 1 in 10,000 people die. But that's still probably overall, if you have a lot of spread, much more than the risk from the vaccine. But by the time their turn would come, which would be many months from now if you haven't got a risk factor, we will have other alternatives, and more importantly, we'll have more data about what the true safety issues are. And for those that get these clots, is there something we can identify to make sure those people don't get it, but all the other 99.999% who won't get a clot can still receive the vaccine.
Peter Collignon, is it a mistake then for the government to have abandoned its targets when it comes to the vaccine rollout?
Well, I personally do like targets, but the problem is you've got to be reasonable about the targets if they're not met. And why? The 4 million doses by the end of March, well, that would have been nice, but 3 million doses didn't come from Europe because actually they needed the vaccine more there than here because we didn't have uncontrolled spread. So I actually do think we need to get 6 or 7 million people vaccinated in the next couple of months. I think that is achievable. That's all the really at-risk people before winter starts. We're getting 1 million doses supposedly produced a week of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Melbourne, and we should be able to have the vast majority of that starting to be injected into people within the next few weeks. So I would expect we should see large numbers of people. And so I would like a number to put that on that's, in my view, reasonable. And if for some reason something major happens, like, no vaccines are allowed to be exported or there's a production problem, we need to reassess. We need also to make sure we keep control of COVID here as best we can, which we've done very successfully. But we need to keep that up because it will be at least till the end of the year, October, November, before the vast majority of adults are vaccinated with whatever vaccines are available, because they're in short supply. And it won't be till next year that we probably have a vaccine for children. So there's a lot of things we've got to continue to do, but not panic about very rare side effects about vaccines that are otherwise very safe and effective, and fully expect we'll have lots of options over the next few months as time goes on.
Professor Peter Collignon, always good to get your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.